My name is Emily Hayes. I'm 29, and last Thursday, I learned two brutal truths over a plate of untouched rigatoni that had gone cold and congealed like regret. First, love shouldn't come with a glossy laminate finish that smells faintly of fresh printer ink and entitlement. Second, if a guy shows up to dinner hauling office supplies like a manila folder thicker than my patience, you're not on a romantic date. You're trapped in a boardroom ambush you never signed up for. The restaurant, La Belle Époque, was one of those upscale haunts in the heart of the city where the dim amber lights cast flattering shadows on everyone's flaws, turning ordinary faces into something almost cinematic. Polished brass fixtures gleamed like whispered secrets. Deep crimson velvet booths hugged your body with the plush give of forgotten luxury, and in the corner, a baby grand piano tinkled out a lazy rendition of Night and Day, the keys sighing under the pianist's fingers, as if even the music knew this night was doomed. The air was thick with the savory perfume of garlic-infused olive oil sizzling on the grill, undercut by the sharp tang of aged Chianti from nearby tables, and the subtle floral notes of women's perfumes mingling like uneasy allies. I arrived early, my chronic bad habit born from too many years of showing up on time for people who never reciprocated, slipping into the booth with a view of the entrance, where I could watch the door like a hawk eyeing prey. There's something intoxicating about those pre-entrance moments, the split second before someone crosses the threshold and remembers the world is watching, their mask slipping into place. Alex Thorne arrived 7 minutes late, striding in with that practiced important conversation face he'd honed to perfection. Smooth-shaven jaw clenched just enough to convey gravitas, earnest eyebrows arched like question marks begging for answers, and a waft of his signature cologne, sandalwood, and ambition trailing him like a corporate entourage. He leaned in for a perfunctory kiss on my cheek, his lips cool and dry against my skin, before sliding into the booth opposite me with posture so ramrod straight it could have balanced a flute of champagne on his spine without a single spill. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, his voice smooth as the velvet under my elbows, but there was no spark in it, no warmth, just the calculated tone of a pitchman warming up. "As opposed to what?" I quipped internally, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. He didn't smile back. That's when I noticed the folder on the table between us, cream-colored weighted stock paper that screamed, "I spent extra at the stationery store for this." The kind they upsell you on for wedding invitations or resumes that lie about your soul. My stomach did that treacherous sink and rise thing, like a faulty elevator in a high-rise nightmare, the buttery aroma of the breadbasket suddenly turning cloying in my throat. We ordered anyway. Pretending normalcy is easier when there's a menu to hide behind. I went for the rigatoni and a truffle cream sauce. Visions of earthy indulgence dancing in my head, while he barely glanced at his options, his eyes flicking to the folder like it was the real star of the evening. He'd rehearsed this, I realized with a chill that prickled the fine hairs on my arms, the ambient hum of silverware clinking and low laughter from adjacent tables fading into a distant roar. Once the server vanished with our order, Alex nudged the folder toward me with the precision of a surgeon unveiling a scalpel. Inside, clipped with 2 pristine holes, was a single laminated sheet. Oh, the irony. That shiny plastic barrier that made the words impervious to tears or coffee spills, catching the candlelight in mocking glints that danced like tiny knives across my vision. At the top, in bold, tasteful Arial font, requirements for marriage, areas where Emily needs improvement. The word requirements slithered around my ribcage like an ice-cold serpent, tapping on long-buried doors I'd slammed shut years ago. I scanned the bullet points, each one a gut punch wrapped in bulletproof casing. Income increased salary by 40% within 12 months to align with our lifestyle goals. Fitness join CrossFit specifically. Lose 15 pounds for visible abs. Vehicle trade your current Corolla for a marriage-appropriate upgrade, BMW, Audi, or Mercedes. Wardrobe complete overhaul. See attached Pinterest board. Social circle phase out negative influences like Sarah, Jordan, and Tyler. Hobbies reading fiction capped at 2 hours per week. Redirect to networking lessons. Family boundaries visits to mom reduced to holidays only. Career path: commit to an MBA by next fall. Options: pre-researched. Housing purchase in Lakeside Estates within 24 months, minimum 3,000 SQF'd. Social media: remove all photos with exes, update relationship status with joint profile pic. The laminate's slick texture under my fingertips felt like a lie made tangible, cool and unyielding, while the restaurant's warmth pressed in, the steam from a passing server's tray carrying the rich, herby scent of rosemary and regret straight to my nostrils. Alex folded his hands on the table, his wedding ring finger gleaming mockingly under the light. I've thought long and hard about this, Em. These are my non-negotiables. I need to know you're serious about our future. There are 1,000 ways to say, "You're not enough." And he chose the office supply aisle, delivering it with the sincerity of a motivational poster. "This is," I paused, softening my voice the way you do when defusing a bomb that looks suspiciously like your boyfriend's ego. "Really helpful." His face lit up like I just endorsed his TED Talk. I knew you'd. I pulled out my phone. The cool glass screen, a lifeline in my sweating palm. Opened a blank note and typed a single line in bold. "Find a new boyfriend." I turned it toward him, the candle's flame gilding the words in flickering gold. The piano hit a sour note, or maybe that was just my heart slamming against my ribs as I stood, the booth's velvet rasping against my jeans like a final whisper of goodbye. He blinked, slow and stunned, the color draining from his face. "Emily, don't be dramatic." "Alex." I shot back, my voice steady for the first time that night, the tang of Chianti on my tongue turning bitter. "You laminated a performance review of my entire life. It's not a framework, it's a prison sentence." "I see your potential." He tapped the list insistently, the plastic crinkling faintly under his nail. "No," I said, and oh, the power in that unshakable word, echoing in my chest like the piano's dying chord. "You see a fixer-upper, and I'm not a flip." I slid a 20 under my water glass for the wine I wouldn't finish, the cool condensation slick against my fingers, and walked out. The server shot me a look of startled sympathy, the kind reserved for car crashes in slow motion or marriages imploding over pasta. Alex reached for my wrist, thought better of it, and instead straightened the list's edges with obsessive care, as if alignment could salvage his delusion. "Be reasonable," he murmured, his voice dropping to that soft, sharp edge like a velvet-wrapped blade. "My dad has connections. He can get you the raise I already spoke to him about." There it was, the Hail Mary from Victor Thorne, the man who treated life's problems like invoices awaiting approval. I flashed a smile without teeth, the night air outside hitting me like a slap, cool and stinging with the metallic bite of impending rain and distant car exhaust. Tell Victor to laminate that thought. I walked 2 blocks before the laughter bubbled up, raw and ridiculous, escaping my lips in hiccuping bursts that steamed into the chill like forbidden relief, the city's neon lights blurring through unshed tears. But laughter doesn't pack boxes, and by the time I reached my apartment building, a cozy pre-war walk-up, with creaky stairs that smelled of aged wood and faint laundry detergent, the high had crashed into resolve. Inside, my space felt invaded. Alex's things squatting like uninvited squatters, his cufflinks glinting smugly on my dresser like tiny silver tyrants, his chalky protein powder tubs colonizing the kitchen cabinet with their vanilla-scented imperialism, his spare suits draped in my closet like dark, expensive question marks brushing against my sundresses. Into boxes they went, cardboard edges rough against my palms, the rustle of fabric and the thud of shoes, a cathartic symphony as I purged with storm-like efficiency. As I taped the last one shut, the adhesive's sticky tug pulling at my skin, a flashback hit me like a sucker punch. 6 months ago, during that romantic weekend getaway he'd insisted on, Alex had forgotten his wallet again, and I'd covered the hotel, meals, even the spa day he'd booked for himself, his casual, "I'll Venmo you later, babe," turning into weeks of excuses, while he posted Instagram stories about our luxury escape. It was straight out of those Reddit AITA threads I devoured in the dead of night. Single moms, shamed by entitled partners who drained them dry. One post screaming, AITA, for cutting off my ex who treated me like an ATM after I became his caregiver during his stressful job phase. The comments had roared validation. NTA, that's financial abuse disguised as love. And there I was, feeling that same exploitation creep in, my shoulders aching from the invisible weight of it all. I'd skimmed AARP stats that morning over coffee, the bitter roast grounding me, learning that 50% of caregivers like me, juggling work and emotional labor for partners who took without giving, faced crippling emotional stress, burnout rates skyrocketing to 38% high stress per CDC reports. Was I his caregiver now? Spoon-feeding his ego while he billed my soul? No more. In a frenzy of empowerment, I grabbed my phone and dove into Reddit's AITA subreddit, fingers flying. AITA for dumping my BF over a laminated improvement list. The responses flooded in within minutes. Hundreds of upvotes. Stories of toxic exes from YouTube revenge channels like Exposed Cheaters, where women shared how boundary setting turned the tables. One therapist tip from Brightside. Me popped up in the sidebar. Start with no as your North Star, document everything. Seek community validation to rebuild self-trust. Emboldened, I texted my landlord, Mia, who answered on the second ring, her voice warm like fresh-baked bread. Hey, Em. What's up? Hey, need the locks changed. Long story short, we're done. Like, nuclear done. She paused, the faint clink of keys in her background. You okay? I'm not laminated, I said, a sarcastic laugh bubbling up, the sound raw against the empty apartment's echo. She chuckled, deep and genuine. Girl, I'll be up in 10 with the toolkit. By midnight, the boxes were labeled in Sharpie, Alex's junk. Pick up by Sunday, or donated, stacked neatly in the mailroom, like a fortress of finality, the musty scent of the basement mingling with the sharp bite of permanent marker. Mia worked her magic, the drill's whirring buzz vibrating through the doorframe like a victory chant, new locks clicking into place with satisfying solidity, their brass cool and reassuring under my touch. I stared at the neat stack and felt an emptiness that wasn't sadness or relief. It was space, vast and echoing, honest as the faint lavender scent of my own laundry finally unchallenged. I didn't fill it with wine or a frantic group chat rant. I brewed chamomile tea, its steam curling herbal and soothing into the air, and sat with the silence until it softened like dough under warm hands. My phone stayed dark, no podcasts, no distractions, just me, reclaiming the quiet. But then, as the clock ticked past 1, it lit up with a buzz that shattered the peace. An incoming call from Victor Thorne, Alex's father, his name flashing like a harbinger. Emily, we need to talk. His voicemail growled immediately after I let it ring out, the authoritative timbre laced with that false paternal concern. This reaction is hasty. Let's discuss like adults over drinks, my treat. My blood ran cold, the tea turning tepid in my grip. Because adults? In Victor's world, that meant checkbooks and coercion, and I knew one call from him could unravel everything I'd just rebuilt. What fresh hell was this? I listened to Victor's voicemail again, his gravelly voice crackling through the speaker like static on an old radio, laced with that condescending paternalism that made my skin crawl, insisting my hasty reaction could be smoothed over with a drink and a chat, as if bourbon could erase the laminate's glare, or the way Alex had itemized my flaws like a grocery list gone wrong. My thumb hovered over delete, but instead, I saved it, the first entry in what I sensed would become a digital scrapbook of overreach, the apartment's quiet now punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic, filtering through the window like a muffled warning. Sleep came in fractured shards that night, my mind replaying the dinner's scents, the cloying garlic and truffle now twisted into nausea, and by morning, the exhaustion clung to me like damp sheets. But work beckoned with its familiar rhythm of spreadsheets and conference calls, a sanctuary where deliverables didn't demand I trade my Corolla for a status symbol. At 11:12 a.m., the security extension buzzed my desk phone. The receptionist's voice, tentative yet amused, slicing through the office's ambient clatter of keyboards and muffled conversations. Miss Hayes, There's a gentleman in the lobby asking for you. He's got a laptop and mentions something about a presentation. My peripheral caught my team pausing, coffee mugs suspended mid-sip, whispers rippling like the steam from their brews. Is that her ex? Suit in the lobby? That's next-level creepy. I swallowed the flush creeping up my neck, the metallic tang of adrenaline sharp on my tongue, and replied steadily, "Please ask him to leave. I'm not available." A pause, then. "He says it's urgent for your professional development." Professional development. Alex's buzzword. Du jour. Twisting like a knife. I stood, my legs steady despite the inner quake, and said, "Tell him my development plan is in the mailroom under Thorn pickup by Sunday." The office manager snorted a laugh that echoed warmly, security chuckled like a shared secret, and the call ended with a click that felt like a small victory, my hands resting on the keyboard without a tremor, palms cool against the plastic keys. As I sat back, the weight of it hit me. These escalations weren't just petty. They mirrored those YouTube toxic ex stories I'd binged late at night, where partners wielded help like a weapon. And suddenly, inspired by the Reddit AITA post I'd made the night before, AITA, for ignoring my ex's dad after a laminated breakup list. I refreshed the thread on my phone under the desk. The responses poured in like a digital lifeline, over 500 upvotes already, users sharing empowerment tales. NTA, that's classic narcissistic control, cut ties before burnout hits. One wrote, linking to a bright side. Me article on setting boundaries with over-involved family, advising, communicate calmly but firmly. I appreciate your concern, but this is my decision, and if they persist, limit contact to protect your mental health. Therapy can help unpack the guilt. Another chimed in with a personal twist. My ex's family tried the same. I went no contact after realizing I was their unpaid emotional labor. Remember, 38% of caregivers face high stress, per caregiver.org, and you're essentially caregiving his ego without consent. The stats resonated, a mirror to my own budding burnout, that invisible strain of juggling his expectations alongside my job, the way my shoulders had knotted like overworked dough from months of placating his potential talks, and now, with the online community's validation humming in my veins like caffeine, I felt less alone, more armored against the chaos. At lunch, Mom called, her voice bubbling through the line like warm syrup, rich with that familiar southern lilt that always carried the faint echo of kitchen clatter in the background, pots rattling, oven timer beeping softly. "Baby, if you come on Sunday, I'll make that peach cobbler you love, the one with the extra brown sugar crust that crisps just right," she said. And I could practically smell the buttery sweetness wafting through the phone. Her laugh following like a rolling wave, deep and infectious, pulling a genuine smile from me despite the morning storm. "I'll be there," I promised. Imagining Alex's bullet point on family visits shrinking to ash in her oven's heat, the conversation wrapping me in a sensory hug, the imagined crunch of fork through cobbler, the sticky warmth on my fingers reminding me of boundaries worth fighting for, like those bright side me tips urged. Acknowledge their feelings but stand firm, perhaps even suggesting family therapy if Victor's meddling escalated. After work, I took the long route home, weaving past the lake, where the wind whipped the water into chattering ripples, its fresh, earthy scent mingling with the faint exhaust from passing cars, a couple nearby posing for engagement photos. Their laughter light as her veil fluttered like fragile silk, his hands gentle on her waist. A stark contrast to Alex's rigid lists. I wish them a partnership free of ultimatums, one built on shared dreams like lazy road trips or rainy day book reads, not upgrades and overhauls. Back at the building, the concierge arched an eyebrow, his voice laced with wry humor. "Quiet today, Miss Hayes. Let's keep it that way." I nodded, pressing the elevator button with a finger that didn't shake, the doors sliding shut with a soft whoosh that sealed in the day's residue. As they closed, my reflection stared back, eyes tired but sparked with that defiant gleam. Not from tears but from choosing myself amid the frenzy. I set my phone face down on the counter, the cool granite grounding me, but it buzzed insistently. First, Alex, we need to talk. You misunderstood the list's spirit. Then Victor again. Let's resolve this like adults. I can fast-track that raise. I silenced it, drawing from the Reddit chorus. Document, block, heal, and the bright-side advice to limit exposure to over-involved kin who blur lines between support and control. The apartment's hush settled like a blanket, but as I sipped more chamomile, its floral steam curling soothingly, I reflected on how close I'd come to caregiver burnout. That 38% statistic, flashing like a warning sign, my role in Alex's life having morphed into emotional scaffolding without reciprocity, leaving me drained like an overused battery. Yet now, with locks changed and community backing, I felt the stirrings of empowerment. A quiet resolve building, like the lake's persistent waves. Then a message from an unknown number appeared on my screen, 5 words that prickled my arms with gooseflesh. He's done this before. Emily. I stared at the message. He's done this before, Emily. The screen's glow casting a cold, ethereal light across my kitchen counter, turning the chamomile steam into ghostly wisps that carried a faint, floral bitterness up my nose, my heart thudding like a distant drum in the otherwise silent apartment. Fingers trembling slightly on the cool glass, I typed back, "Who is this?" The 3 dots danced mockingly before the reply popped. Sophia Reyes. I dated Alex last year. Please. Document everything, he's relentless. Her words hit like a splash of icy water, prickling my skin with chills that ran down my arms, echoing those Reddit revenge stories I'd scrolled through obsessively, tales of toxic exes exposed through meticulous logs and community support. One user crowing, I turned the tables by posting everything anonymously, watch them squirm when the internet calls them out. Emboldened, I updated my AITA thread. Update. Ex's dad offering resolutions, and now an ex warns me? AITA for building a digital fortress. The responses surged like a tidal wave, advice pouring in. NTA. Channel those YouTube cheater revenge vibes. Expose without rage. Let facts do the damage. Linking to videos where jilted partners flipped scripts with calm evidence, inspiring my own twist of empowerment straight from Brightside. Me's I Turned the Tables series, where one woman reclaimed her narrative by documenting her controlling MIL's oversteps and sharing selectively, turning humiliation into a rally cry for boundaries. By the next morning, with Sophia's tip burning in my mind, I'd scanned the voicemail from Victor and added it to my growing folder screenshots, crisp, timestamps. Unassailable. The apartment's morning light filtering through blinds in sharp slats that striped the floor like bars. I refused to be caged by. Noon crashed in wearing Alex's suit and toting a laptop, the security call rumbling through my extension like thunder muffled by office walls. Miss Hayes, he's back requesting a conference room. Says he has a presentation. I stepped to the mezzanine railing, peering down into the glassy lobby where Alex stood. Shirt impeccably crisp. Smile dialed to charismatic overdrive for the front desk. A trifold poster board propped against his leg like a juvenile science fair relic. His laptop open to a title slide in sterile corporate blue. Emily's transformation plan. A roadmap to excellence. The receptionist's eyes met mine, mouthing, "Police or priest?" as the air conditioning's chill amplified the gooseflesh on my arms. I descended in the elevator with feigned calm, the doors parting to release me into the fray. Alex pivoting with a flourish. Emily. Perfect. I've slotted 30 minutes. Q&A at the end. Pass. I snapped, but he clicked forward anyway. Slide 2 blooming with objectives. Elevate brand image. Maximize partner potential. Reduce negative influences. Align with Thorne family standards, the word brand, twisting my gut like sour milk. Security chief, Marco, already loomed nearby, his hand hovering. Sir, no appointment, no entry. Alex pressed on, undeterred. This is an intervention. Leadership means tough calls, I countered. Voice steady amid the lobby's echoing footsteps and faint espresso machine hiss. The last tough call you made was laminating your ego trip. This is trespassing. He smiled, that patient, paternal grin that curdled my blood, gathering his props with offended precision as Marco escorted him out. You're resisting growth, Em, but you'll thank me when you've leveled up. I like my level, I retorted, the words tasting like victory laced with bile. It has fiction books and freedom from your BS. The small crowd exhaled, a teammate whispering, HR needs a category for slideshow stalking. As I returned upstairs, adrenaline buzzing like caffeine overload. By 2 p.m. my inbox pinged with Victor's subject line, business proposal. The email unfolding like a velvet-gloved threat. Emily, I can resolve the income issue immediately. Join Thorne Construction as junior ops manager at figures that tempt, with a path to the outlined salary bump. In exchange, good faith in couples counseling and recommitment. The list items are achievable with dedication. CC'd to Alex, the numbers gleamed big enough to lure someone confusing cash with affection, but picturing Mom's hands kneading cobbler dough, flour-dusted and warm, I hit reply. Victor, my career isn't barter for your son's delusions. The income issue is yours. Do not contact me. Sent, with a screenshot straight to my folder and the Reddit thread, where users cheered. That's how you turn the tables. Refuse their narrative. Build yours. At 4, Mom rang, her voice a mix of fury and fizz like champagne popped in a storm. He's here, sweetheart, with a therapist. The chill returned, slithering down my spine as she detailed the ambush, her laugh punctuating the tale like sharp cracks. I let them in out of sheer curiosity. Did the doc know you hadn't consented? She blinked like a spotlighted owl when I asked, stammering. Alex assured her of a crisis needing family support. I told her the real crisis is his allergy to no, unless it's on cardstock. Muffled voices echoed in the background, Alex's smooth cadence, the therapist's rising alarm as Mom inhaled deeply, her resolve audible. Doctor. Ellis realized she'd been duped, called it inappropriate, and bolted. Then Alex accused me of enabling your underachievement, as if raising you solo through nursing school was slacking. The insult stung like salt in an old wound, but Mom's retort bench-pressed it. If loving my daughter disqualifies her from your checklist, praise the Lord for my enabling. I laughed shakily, grateful for her steel spine, the phone warm against my ear. You okay? Cobbler's intact, we're golden. Drawing from Brightside. Me's boundary tips, I advised her. Next time, say no at the door. Therapists recommend framing it as, I appreciate the intent. But this crosses my line. Please respect that. To shut down overreach without escalation. At 6, the intercom buzzed like an angry hornet. Miss Hayes, U-Haul downstairs trying to haul unlabeled items. Heart pounding like a sprint, I dashed to the elevator, emerging into the lobby's fluorescent glare, where 3 movers in neon shirts flanked Kara, a vaguely familiar face from Alex's Insta, clipboard in hand and smirk plastered on. Hi, she chirped, voice saccharine over the truck's idling rumble outside, exhaust fumes wafting in with a gritty chill that raised hairs on my neck. Alex sent us for his things. Labeled boxes only. I pointed, voice cutting through the tension. She flipped pages. But he forgot the TV, espresso machine, and that china set practically his, since he used it more. Grandma's china, I echoed, temperature plummeting internally, the heirloom's delicate porcelain edges flashing in memory. Kara plowed on. Significant investments in this space. Equitable compensation. One mover, with a faith over fear tattoo peeking from his sleeve, shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, we were told you might get violent over stolen stuff, but you seem chill. Violent about lies, I said, security folding arms like a human wall. Kara argued synergy and equity, her helium high tone grating like nails on chalk, but the tattooed mover cleared his throat. This is above pay grade, sorry for the mix-up, miss. They loaded only boxes, Kara deflating as the truck growled away. tailpipe smoke bitter in the air. Upstairs, tea brewed but untouched. The quiet post-drama hummed like a held breath, my bitter laugh escaping as I texted Sophia. "Why does he think this works?" Her reply: "It usually does." Victor's wallet whispers louder than no. People fold when money talks. He sees love as leverage, women as assets. The laugh soured in my throat, but empowerment surged. I shared the U-Haul saga on Reddit's Revenge subreddit, inspired by those cheater exposés on YouTube where victims flipped scripts with public receipts. Users responding: "Turn the tables, lawyer up, go public, anonymously." 47% of caregivers like you face spiked anxiety per guardian life. Don't let his toxicity burn you out. The stat hit home. My own anxiety cresting like waves from months of emotional caregiving, that invisible toll of propping his ego while mine frayed. But now, with online allies, I documented feverishly. Lobby photo? Email screen grab. Mom's voicemail, mover work order, concierge video, all filed, emailed to self and mom. I scrawled a non-laminated list. Lawyer hunt, HR alert, doorbell cam. Tell Sarah the crazy details, no egging yet. Sarah fired back. Bedazzle no on his hood? Proud. Boundaries suit you. Shadows lengthened as I doused lights, the city horizon bruising purple, pondering how men like Alex armored chaos in structure, fearing a woman's no as anarchy. Deadbolt clicked. Chain slid sleep came purposeful, not peaceful. Knowing tomorrow I'd pivot from reaction to action. A case unyielding as laminate. But then fake profiles started appearing, twisting my face into his fantasy, and the game shifted darker. The fake profiles started appearing like digital phantoms in the night, my face stolen from old selfies with that genuine smile I'd worn before. Alex's lists eroded. It plastered across Hinge and Bumble, twisted into his ideal. Emily, 29, CrossFit queen, MBA-bound empire builder, Tuscany villa dreamer, fiction hater, seeking synergy, in lakeside estates. The glowing screen of my phone cast a harsh blue light across my trembling hands as I scrolled through the alerts, the apartment's quiet amplifying the soft buzz of notifications like insistent whispers, my heart racing with a mix of fury and violation that left a metallic taste in my mouth. It began with a text from coworker Liam, his message popping up mid-morning coffee, the bitter roast turning acrid on my tongue. "Hey, random on Hinge?" My buddy matched with, "You raving about power couples and scheduling a date at your place." I froze, the office hum fading to a distant drone, and called him, voice tight. "Liam, I don't have Hinge." He chuckled uneasily. "Well, tell that to Emily, the abs-obsessed future homeowner who loathes books." Dread coiled cold in my gut. Alex's handiwork obvious in the bullet point bio echoing his laminate. A betrayal straight out of those Reddit AITA stories where exes sabotage by forging invites to events without consent. Like one post I'd read about a guy RSVPing his ex to a family reunion as his plus one, only for her to show up to chaos. By the weekend, 3 women knocked on my door, each more bewildered than the last, their perfumes clashing in the hallway, floral, citrus, vanilla, overdressed in cocktail dresses that rustled like accusations. First was Olivia, heels clicking sharply on the tile, eyeing my sweats and messy bun. "You're not what the profile promised." I showed her the printouts, hands steady now from practice. Explaining the catfish scheme over spring rolls we'd ordered, the greasy crunch and salty soy grounding us as we screenshot his fake messages lines like, "Let's align our goals over wine at my lakeside pad." She laughed sharply, fury not at me but him. "This is nuts, want company while we document." We did, her support echoing the Reddit users who'd flooded my thread with empowerment twists. NTA. Turn the tables like those YouTube worst ex stories, expose the fraud non-violently, maybe by reporting profiles en masse or sharing anonymized receipts to warn others. Inspired, I updated the post. Update. Fake profiles, using my pics. Women showing up at my door. The community exploded thousands of upvotes, stories of similar betrayals, one suggesting a modified revenge from laxative tales. Don't stoop to sabotage, empower by building a support network, report to apps, and let karma and lawyers handle the rest. Olivia left with her number scribbled on a napkin. Witness or friend call me. Her warmth lingering like the takeout's lingering spice, a spark of something safe amid the storm. The next morning, Mom called, her voice laced with disbelief that vibrated through the line like a taut string. Sweetheart, did you invoice me? My pulse spiked, hands clammy on the phone. What? She read it aloud, each line dripping entitlement. Invoice, relationship coaching and life improvement consulting, 18 months at $200, divided by month, $3,600. Personal styling, $1,000. Career counseling divided by MBA research, $500. Meal planning divided by nutrition, $900. Social circle optimization, $400. Interior design, $1,500. Future planning divided by goal setting, $643. Total, $8,743. Payment due in 30 days or legal action. Signed, Alex Thorne, consultant in love and growth. The absurdity hitting like a slap, her silence heavy before she quipped. Do I bill him for solo parenting you through my degree? Add hazard pay for this BS. We shared tired laughs that steadied into resolve, but hanging up, my hands shook too much for tea, the cup's porcelain cool and unyielding. Later, Victor's email pinged, screen glowing accusatory. Expect respect for Alex's investments in your potential compensation reasonable. Attached the watermarked invoice under Thorne Construction's logo, as if corporate polish could legitimize delusion. I forwarded to my lawyer, hired via Sophia's nudge subject. Exhibit B, the audacity. Then reflected on the burnout creeping in, that 66% stat from APA haunting me. Around 2/3 of caregivers grapple with mental health symptoms like anxiety and depression, per their insights on the toll of emotional labor, mirroring my frayed nerves from months of propping Alex's ego while mine withered. No wonder I'd been his unpaid therapist, stylist, planner, the invisible strain manifesting in restless nights and trembling fingers. Drawing from Good is articles on empowerment in toxic relationships. I internalized their advice. In family drama, prioritize self-care by setting firm boundaries, communicate needs clearly. Like this crosses my line, I won't engage. And if needed, reduce contact to reclaim peace. Bright side. Me, echoed in there, I turned the tables pieces. Handle toxic in-laws by limiting interactions when behavior turns harmful, focusing on your mental health over forced harmony. That night, sleep evaded me. Every creak a potential plot, shadows dancing like signatures on binding contracts. I reread Sophia's messages, her own billing saga, paying half to vanish, and vowed no folding. My folder bulged. Timeline of escalations. Laminate, lobby slide, therapist trap, U-Haul heist, now profiles and invoices underlined. This isn't love, it's leverage. Evidence. I whispered into the dark. Keep pushing. Alex, each stunt nails your coffin. The words tasting like bitter triumph. By midweek, Alex escalated to public theater on TikTok, Sarah texting a link with exclamation frenzy, he's interneting your case study. The faceless account's voice filter droned over animated slides, distorting our story. When a strong woman fears excellence, my visionary efforts rejected by mediocrity. My hands trembled on the phone, screen's glow illuminating my clenched jaw, but comments savaged him. Dumped over a laminated list? Queen move. CrossFit mandate? Sit down, sir. Invoiced her mom? Receipts or GTFO? Screenshots circulated mine. Sophia's. Anonymous tips the backlash, forcing deletions in 48 hours. His damage self-inflicted. The online swell boosted me. Reddit users messaged privately. You've got this, join our support group for toxic ex-survivors. Share strategies like boundary scripts from therapists. One linked bright side. Me's family drama tips. Empower by documenting patterns, seeking therapy for validation, and building chosen family to counter biotoxic ones. I did, attending a virtual meetup where stories mirrored mine betrayals, like exes crashing events uninvited, inspiring my own nonviolent flip, filing reports to dating apps, watching profiles vanish like smoke. The community's hugs, virtual but warm, eased the isolation, stats reminding me I wasn't alone in the mental haze. Yet, as I pinned the restraining order draft to my fridge, handwriting bold, boundary, final edit. The quiet felt fragile, my future stretching unlaminated. And then the wedding crash happened, turning private pain into spectacle, and I knew the endgame loomed. And then the wedding crash happened, a spectacle that turned my private ordeal into a public farce. The air at my cousin Sophia's ceremony, thick with the romantic haze of fresh roses, blooming in crystal vases, champagne bubbles fizzing like fragile hopes, and the warm, yeasty scent of bread baskets circulating among tables, draped in ivory linens that whispered elegance. I wore a flowing sapphire dress that swished softly against my legs, the fabric cool and empowering after weeks of chaos, allowing myself to breathe in the tenderness of vows exchanged under a floral arch, believing for a moment that love could exist without spreadsheets or stipulations. For those fleeting hours, the drama receded like a tide, until a collective gasp rippled through the reception hall. Forks clinking to a halt against plates, conversations dying mid-sentence, as Alex strode in, wearing a pristine white suit that gleamed under the chandelier lights like a misguided beacon. His face flushed with delusional triumph, microphone snatched from the DJ booth, gripped in his hand like a trophy. Sophia's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing fury as she mouthed to me, "Tell me he didn't," but he had, launching into a booming monologue over the stunned silence. True love conquers all obstacles. "Emily, this should have been our day," Sarah whispered beside me. "Oh no, he's monologuing," her hand squeezing mine with solidarity as the room's heat closed in like a vice. Guests shifting uncomfortably in their seats, whispers spreading like wildfire through dry grass. He rambled on, tears glistening theatrically. "Despite betrayal, despite misunderstandings, I will always." The DJ, bless his quick fingers, cut the mic with a screech of feedback that pierced the air like a needle, and Sophia barked, "Get him out!" As two burly cousins, Diego and Luca, hoisted him by the armpits and marched him toward the exit, his shouts about destiny echoing off the walls, while his white suit caught the doorframe lights like a surrendering flag he refused to acknowledge. I stood frozen, the floral perfume turning cloying in my throat, shame trying to root in my chest like weeds, but anger burned brighter. Hotter, he hadn't just humiliated me, he'd exposed his own unraveling. Mom muttered nearby, "He's about to invoice for emotional labor," cracking the tension, as guests chuckled nervously, my hands still trembling as I texted my lawyer, "Add wedding crash to the pile," the phone screen glowing accusatory in the dim light. That night, replaying the mic squeal, the stunned faces, the flush creeping my neck, I fought the urge to let shame take hold, instead channeling Brightside, me's empowerment stories, where women flipped scripts by crafting personal manifestos, simple, unlaminated lists affirming their worth. 2 days later, my lawyer called, voice crisp over the line. "Court next week, the judge will see the escalation. This isn't obsession, it's a pattern." The word escalation fit like a key in a lock. Alex's delusions stacking into a teetering tower, each stunt a higher ledge. But at the top wasn't romance. It was a fall waiting to happen, and I was done anywhere near it. That evening, I pinned the restraining order draft to my fridge, scrawling in bold marker, "Boundary, final version," and sat at my table. City lights bruising the horizon outside, to draft my own self-list, inspired by those online tales, Emily's requirements for happiness, peace in quiet mornings with chamomile steam curling like promises, autonomy over my Corolla's reliable hum and my wardrobe's comfortable chaos, joy in fiction. Stacks by the bed, uncapped and unjudged, friends like Sarah who spark laughter loud enough to echo, a mom whose calls start with, "Baby, you hungry?" and end with unwavering support. A life free of bullet point bondage, where no is a full sentence. No laminate, no negotiations, just mine, the paper's texture rough and real under my fingers, a quiet act of reclamation that eased the knots in my shoulders. The courthouse smelled of stale paper and sharp disinfectant, the sterile air making truths feel weightier, yet somehow lighter. As I sat at the petitioner's table with Miss Ramirez, my lawyer, hands folded in my lap, knuckles white but steady. Across the aisle, Alex fiddled with his tie like prepping for a pitch, Victor rigid behind him, his sister Elena avoiding my gaze with reddened eyes. The judge leafed through our thick packet, tabbed, highlighted, a geological record of madness. The laminated list's glossy photo, lobby PowerPoint snaps, therapist ambush notes, U-Haul affidavits, fake profile screenshots, mom's invoice copy, TikTok clips, wedding video chaos, each page turned a splinter of his humiliation shifting to him. Alex argued, "Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding. I was guiding Emily to her potential, intentions pure." The judge raised a hand. "You invoiced her mother for dating, that's not normal." Laughter bubbled in the gallery, Alex flushing beet red as Victor rose. "Your Honor, my son deserves excellence. He set standards." "Sit down," she snapped. "This isn't your courtroom." Victor's bluster, shrinking like deflating sails. My turn came. Voice quivering once before steadying. I laid it bare, no flair, just facts: how a man confused control for care, bartered compliance with threats and checkbooks, ignored. "No." Without lamination, the judge sighed, lines of weariness etching her face. "This behavior is alarming. Miss Hayes, restraining order granted 500 feet, no contact, 2 years. Mr. Thorne, understand." Alex parted his lips, but Elena touched his arm, silencing him for the first time, gavel banging like final punctuation. In the hallway after, Victor approached, shoulders slumped, voice uncharacteristically soft. "Emily, sorry, he said you were reconciling. We didn't know." I nodded, not harshly. "Listen to your daughter next time." Glancing at Elena, eyes steady through tears. "We've warned them for years. He's in ongoing therapy now, real sessions, twice weekly. Unpacking his control issues as per the counselor's plan." Her apology landed gentle, a twist revealing cracks in their facade. Therapy, a step toward accountability inspired by real advice from sources like Good, is on healing post-toxic dynamics. For controlling partners, sustained therapy addresses root fears, fostering growth over time. It wasn't my weight anymore. Weeks later, silence became symphony. No buzzes, no invoices, no lobbies besieged. Just peaceful dawns, Sunday cobblers with Mom, where the buttery crust crunched satisfyingly, steam carrying brown sugar sweetness that healed old wounds. She framed the invoice in her kitchen, a quirky artifact sparking guest laughter till tears flowed, mine included, pain transmuted to punchline. Sarah proposed darting the list. Jordan, a drinking game per bullet. Tyler, screen printing, negative influence tease. Worn proudly to brunch my circle, a fortress, not flaw. Reflecting on the toll, I noted how 11% of family caregivers report physical health deterioration from the stress, per caregiver.org. And recovery from such burnout can span weeks to over a year, depending on severity. A stat that mirrored my gradual unwind, the knots loosening as I reclaimed energy for myself, no longer propping his ego at my expense. To inspire others, I shared the full saga on Reddit's AITA and Revenge subs anonymized but raw, detailing the laminate to the gavel, the community's responses flooding in. Thousands of upvotes, PMs of solidarity. "Your story helped me spot red flags in my own relationship. Thank you for turning tables without venom." It boosted engagement, users swapping brightside. Me tips on boundary setting and empowerment lists. Forming a virtual network where survivors traded strategies for healing, my post pinned as a beacon for those navigating similar storms. Then there was Olivia, the door-knocking casualty of his profiles. Our texts evolving to coffee meetups where laughter over bad lattes, foamy and warm, built something unpressured, safe, her hand brushing mine with a spark I didn't rush to label, just savored like untimed fiction reads. I didn't call it love yet, but holy in its honesty. One Sunday post-cobbler, I opened a fresh document, expanding my self-list, added ventures in my Corolla's familiar rumble, unchecked hobbies blooming like wildflowers, mental space free of escalations. I stopped at 10 enough, imperfect mine. Closing the laptop, lights dimming one by one, shadows claiming their corners, my keys glinted on the hook, books patient by the bed, future unfolding not in bullets, but boundless horizons. For the first time in months, sleep enveloped me without fear, dreams weaving freedom's tapestry, unlaminated, unyielding, utterly my own.